How's it going, guys? Winter Kills here, and welcome to a brand new live post commentary duel video between Marincess and pure Mekk Knight. Pretty excited to bring you guys this duel in particular, as it's a pretty back and forth game, I will say. And I also recorded this duel in 4K, downscaled it to 1080p so I could actually edit it. It should look a little bit crisper than the average duel video, so I hope you guys do enjoy that. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get into the match die roll underway. This is one of those games where the die roll really doesn't make too big of a difference, which is nice, because it gives each deck the opportunity to do what they both want to do. I want to go first and to set up with a big board, which I clearly was not able to do, but thanks to the not greatest hand, that I opened, and he wants to go second if he can help it. So this is one of those nicer games where the die roll isn't like super, isn't like a huge deciding factor, I guess I should say, in the outcome of the game. So he'll start off with World Legacy's Memory. I'll hit it with an Ash Blossom. He'll set 2 back row and summon a Mekk Knight of the Yellow Star and swing in for 22 and pass. I'll draw set 1 and pass. As you can see, he's got a copy of Lightning Storm in hand. Just waiting to use that. And I'll go ahead and on this next attack declaration of Yellow Star, before I take any more damage, I'll hit it with the Paleozoic Dynamiscus and pass it back. Well, still his turn. Getting a little bit ahead of myself, so yeah, he'll end his turn after that, deciding he doesn't want to commit any more to the field. I'll draw a card and pass it back to him. Still probably picked up a hand trap. He's going to go ahead and intent to use World Legacy's Memory once again here, and that will go through this time. He'll summon purple, but on the effect activation of purple, I'll hit it with another copy of Dynamiscus, discarding another wave. So opening multiple waves here, adding to bad hands and making them even worse. Regardless, though, I'll be able to follow up on my turn with finally a Marincess monster. Not the one I was looking for, but a Marincess monster nonetheless, and that of Pascalis. It'll allow me to link into that of Blue Slug, but on the effect to add back, he will have an effect Valor. But fortunately for me, I do have that extender in the form of Dynamiscus on the board to be able to keep Link climbing here. I believe I end up going for an enemy. I'm looking at Splash Mage, possibly for Transcode Talker, but I'm realizing it's probably not the best time to do that, so I just go ahead and summon the Anemone. And again, to go ahead and talk about the Dynamiscus, again, serving as great purpose here, not only or dual purpose, not only as a removal, but also as extension whenever you need it. He is going to have Memory on the summon, and then as I activate the effect, or at least declare to activate the effect, he is also going to chain that copy of Secret. So Anemone will not be able to go through this turn, unfortunately. Otherwise, I've been able to get into Sea Angel and Marbled Rock and probably been in a good position. End phase, Indigo will bounce back. A bit of a mistake happens here, so I want to go ahead and point this out. He summons Indigo and uses the effect. I do have a Ghost Organ response, and then he summons Indigo again, which I realize cannot happen. But that is irreparable game state at this point, and that's just sort of how this plays out. So I'll lose my Anemone. I'll just have to pass on my turn. He'll swing in for 24 and pass after setting one, and pass it back to me. I'll draw one, set one, pass it back to him. And he's got a Lightning Storm in his hand. Pretty good card to have, sort of waiting in the wakes, especially against a deck like Marincess. But here's where it comes down to sort of crunch time. I guess not really super crunch time, but getting there. With only 3k life left, I've got a Dynamiscus, and I go ahead and hit the Indigo, because I know I try to hit the purple, he's going to go ahead and just dodge it. Luckily I have another Dynamiscus engraved that I can bring out to block damage here, and he goes to use purple. I have Ogre for it, and I top deck Blue Tang, so my luck here sort of making up for the incorrect misplay with the double Indigo earlier in this game, and the Blue Tang seemingly getting me back into the game here. But unfortunately he does have infinite impermanence for Slug, but luckily my Blue Tang at least finds me one card now. I do make some mistakes here myself. Both players making a bit of mistakes here in this match, but they do happen. You can only try to learn from them. That is the point of testing, after all. So what these matches are, they're live testing matches, so we are here to learn things, of course, especially in review as I watch them back. He top decks a Vrom here. That's enough to get over Blue Slug. passes it back to me. I set one, pass it back to him. He runs over my set Mandarin. He passes it back to me. I draw an Ash. I'm forced to set that. But one thing I do want to point out as we go ahead and do a bit of a back and forth till I find another blue Tang, is I forgot completely, and I usually always do with Marincess. I think it's just because I'm not super experienced with it. I don't put so much time into the deck, at least not like I have been lately, because I've been really, really enjoying Marincess. But utilizing a lot of the good graveyard effects that cards like Pascalis and Blue Slug have. I could have used Pascalis graveyard effect multiple times already to add back a wave, and I could have used Seahorse's graveyard effect already at this point also, which could have came in clutch. So, but it is what it is. So I pick up a Pot of Desires here. He does have Ash. Luckily, I have a Call by the Grave. And I'm also lucky that I drew into some pretty darn good cards here at this point. That happens to be the Tenyi Water Spirit and that of the Seahorse. And that's great because that's going to allow me to go into a Splash Mage. And that's also pretty nice here because I can kind of like bypass. I guess it's good that I had both of those water monsters because at this point I think I'm out of Blue Slugs and I think I'm also out of Sea Angel. With no real way to get them back unless I get an Anemone on board, recycle another one, I get like Marbled Rock on board, and I recycle another one. So as you can see, I have waves in my graveyard. So as I was talking about earlier, I could have utilized the Pascalis in the grave to add back one of those waves already, but I just did not do that. And again, I do apologize. Marincess is a deck that I'm still like constantly. I've been playing this deck way more than I ever have, putting way more thought into the deck than I ever have, and like I've said earlier in this video, I am really, really enjoying the deck because it's a nice change of pace from a lot of the combo decks and control combo decks that I usually play. I almost said control, but I don't play control really. But yeah, always playing a lot of combo, Block BA, Infernoble, Mermail, etc., etc. So Marincess is a nice change of pace. Now I link into Marbled Rock, but here's the kicker: I don't use this effect to add back wave. Couldn't tell you why I didn't do that, because I think ultimately it might actually end up costing me this game here, which is pretty upsetting to hear, because had I had the wave for that Girsu, I don't know that my opponent would be able to do the things that he's going to currently be able to do. Yeah, no, I don't think so. But it is what it is. Maybe I didn't use Marbled Rock because I was afraid of Ghost Ogre. That could have also been it. So don't think that I'm entirely in the wrong here for not using its effect, although I feel like I should have used it, but I think I might have been careful because I was afraid of hand traps. Because if I do get Ghost Ogre there, I think I still lose outright regardless because I can add back the wave, but I have no way to resolve the wave at that point. So I think that's why I may have held it. I was watching this back and it seemed a little obscure myself as to why I didn't use the effect there, but I think that might be one reason why. But Girsu, a great card to have here, and he's going to go ahead and summon out that World Legacy World Armor. That's going to get him Key, which is going to get him a Mekk Knight back to his hand instantly, which is pretty important. And yeah, he does actually have Ghost Ogre in his hand, which I believe he had for that last turn where I played out where I summoned the Marbled Rock. And he actually decides that he wants to discard the Ghost Ogre instead of the Indigo. So obviously he spins 2 with the Lib Unicorn play, and then summons the Indigo and swings in for the rest of damage there that he needs. And we're on to game 2. And as we start things off here, a quick shout out to Imperium Duelist if you're interested in the playmat we're using here, or the sleeves, or if you guys need new dice, deck boxes, playmat bags, etc., etc. Imperium Duelist is the place to go. They got amazing high quality products. I've been using them for I think almost two years now, which is crazy to say that it's been that long. But I can say that I haven't regretted a single second of using any of their products. And if you guys want to try it out for yourself, some of their stuff, or sort of restock, do not forget to use my discount code WinnerKills10 off at checkout to save 10% off your entire order. And of course, it does help out greatly to support the channel, more than you would think. And if you guys are buying anything on TCG Player, do not forget, I always say it, to use that affiliate link to TCG Player down in the description below, that first link. If you buy any cards using that link and check out using that link, a small portion of the revenue from your purchase will go back into the channel. And consider becoming a member today to get on on early deck profiles, behind the scenes photos, and other great content. So hit that join button for more information. So as we sort of catch up to my first turn board here, you can see that my opponent did have a Ghost Ogre. Ghost Ogre is pretty potent against Marincess, since a lot of your links are pretty, you're pretty reliant on most of them. Like for example, the interaction with Slug and Seahorse. Obviously, normal the Seahorse Slug adds it back and gives you a spot to summon your Seahorse. So if the Slug is gone, you have really nothing to do with the Seahorse. So it can be pretty detrimental. And I think Ghost Ogre all around is a great hand trap this format, 1000%. So I'm sort of going up into the Toad play, since I was able to open up Pascalis and that of Blue Tang. The only downside with this particular opening is that I do not have the unaffected Marbled Rock here. But we'll take it in the in the exchange of a Totally Awesome, which is huge. So also another little bit of a mistake happens here on both our behalfs, is regarding the Call by the Grave on the Ghost Ogre, and I'll explain that more in just a moment. But pretty solid end board there, ending with the Marbled Rock. I've got the Battle Phase protection, which is pretty key. And the reason I didn't equip 3 to my Marbled Rock was because I just didn't want to give him any more columns than I had to. Because I were to equip one more monster, one more card, I give him a column regardless. Well, I guess technically if I 1, 2, 3, 4, no, I would give him a column either way. And I was not about to do that. So if I can help it, I'd rather not give him a column. So that's why I did not equip 3. Otherwise, it just becomes so much easier for him than it already is to play through the field. At least just gain advantage off the cards that I've left there in the form of equip spells. But importantly, wanted to equip that of... I probably only really needed to equip the Anemone, just so if the field spell leaves the field, I'm able to get the add back effect procted. So he's going to set one and summon Indigo, and of course that's got more attack than Toad does, so I'm forced to use the effect of Marbled Rock to negate the attack and take no damage by discarding a Marincess monster. And my opponent is going to go ahead and use Ghost Ogre here, which technically is still negated because a lot of people, including myself, forget that Call by the Grave has a lingering effect until the end of the next turn. So technically that Ghost Ogre should not have been able to go through. But it is what it is. These things, they happen sometimes. But I mean, regardless, my Marbled Rock was still able to do what I wanted to do, and that was to protect Totally Awesome in the battle phase. So now our Mekk Knight player is going to go ahead and go into main phase 2. We're going to see it looks like he has Gearsu and Blue Sky in hand, which is pretty solid. And he's going to go ahead and move the Indigo over and summon Blue Sky. And this is where I sort of contribute to the mistake. And I have a Ghost Ogre of my own. So it sort of counteracts the other illegal Ghost Ogre by adding another illegal Ghost Ogre to go against it. But he has Gearsu, which is still a very, very good follow-up. But luckily I've got the Toad for that. Definitely don't want to let that go through. Toad's going to go ahead and add back Marbled Rock since I'm only playing 1 in this extra deck. So pretty important to keep that one recycled at least. And that is going to do it for his turn. I believe I pick up a Pascalis for turn here, which is pretty huge. Now, this is where I remember actually to use the Graveyard effect here of the Seahorse. And that's going to special summon out the Pascalis from hand, which will special summon out the Blue Tang without having used my normal summon. And then Blue Tang is going to go ahead and send off Mandarin from the deck to the graveyard. We're going to go ahead and link into Blue Slug, at least what I think I'm going to. This is another one of those situations where I'm thinking, like, do I want to be locked into Waters? Because, I could easily go into Splash Mage and, go into Transcode, Access Code, etc., etc. But my main issue right now is trying to set up where all the link arrows are going to be so I can get the most out of a Transcode Talker play. So, of course, I go into Splash Mage. That's going to revive Pascalis. And I'm going to go ahead and go into a Link 3 here, which is going to be Transcode. And again, I'm sort of thinking, like, where do I want to put this Transcode? And do I even want to make it here yet? Because I'm also not fully utilizing the Gearsu that's on my field, and I'm also trying to get a way to use my Mandarin Engrave, but I'm realizing I need a Marincess Link Monster on the field to do that. So I'm trying to figure out how I can get a Marincess Link Monster on the field without resolving its effect to lock me into waters, and also give me a spot to summon Transcode Talker to the point where it can be co-linked to get the attack boost and the protection it offers when it co-links. So I'm trying to go through all those calculations in my head right now. What I think I end up doing is summon Anemone without using its effect to revive. And I think here I should be using the effect of Blue Slug, or Blue Tang rather. Gets me another Blue Tang, which is fine. Better than nothing. Would have hoped for a wave, especially at this point in the game. Wave would be really nice. And don't want to use the effect of the Anemone here, because I will be locked into waters, and it will kind of defeat the purpose of what I'm trying to do. So what I should really do at this point is link off, I think I link off the Splash Mage and the Gearsu for Transcode. As I put the Gearsu in my graveyard on accident, and I go ahead and use the effect of Transcode Talker here. At least attempt to use its effect to summon out a Link Monster from the grave. But he does have, regardless here, that of Secret. So it's going to bring out Blue Sky, and it's going to go ahead and negate Transcode Talker's effect, which is unfortunate. But luckily for me, I do have the Paleozoic Dynamiscus. I'm going to be able to discard that Blue Tang I was able to get off the top of the deck with Blue Tang Engrave. So technically I could have done the Dynamiscus on the activation of the Secret, but then I believe he could have just chained the Indigo, and that would have still negated it. But I just, regardless, I definitely could have played that out. I played that out a little sloppily, I will admit. But again, learning and trying to get better is the goal with this deck. Marincess is, again, not my main deck, my go-to. But luckily for me, the 5300 Transcode Talker is something he cannot answer next turn with a top deck. So just by sheer attack power, access code, rather, not transcode, access code wins me game 2, which is pretty nice. And we're going to head into game 3 now here, where my opponent is going to opt to go first, and for good reason, as he's probably realizing that doesn't want to give me a chance to set up, because it'll probably make it very difficult for him to play through that board, even with a good Mekk Knight hand. And this is one thing that I've found over the years that, yeah, I think I've been playing Mekk Knight for a few years, yeah. Over the years I've been playing Mekk Knight, is that the deck significantly struggles against back row heavy decks, because while they're activating their trap cards and you know, diminishing your plays and lowering your ceiling, they're also taking away cards from you to use as potential columns, which is very, very hurtful. So it's like a double-edged sword, which really hurts. And it's just one of those decks that, like, struggles against control decks. And that's one thing we found in testing, that you know, Marincess just seemed like it always had the leg up in every scenario in every game. Like Mekk Knight had to really open well, and I had to open really poorly for them to have a good chance at beating a deck like Marincess. And Marincess doesn't do a whole lot, but it does what it does well, and it's pretty consistent at doing it. So he's able to go into Almirage here. Hand traps serving their dual purpose within the Mekk Knight strategy. You know, obviously for interruptions, but first turn they're all normal summon possibilities to be able to go into cards like Almirage or Linkuriboh, whatever it may be, which I actually don't think I'm playing Linkuriboh anymore. I think I'm playing Relinquish Anima. But, you know, Almirage is still there as that primary hand trap normal summon target to be able to help create columns, get things going. As you see, he finds himself into a Morningstar here to sort of set up Indigo Engrave, a standard go-to Mekk Knight setup that you'd want in any particular situation. I get started here with the Tenyi, following that up with Pot of Desires, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And there is no response there, luckily. And try to draw into some good Yu-Gi-Oh! Dueling cards here. I think I went with the one of Battle Ocean, too. and really no other Marincess monsters. And I am forced to just set, I believe, a Called By, a Compulse, and a Dynamiscus. So I'm going to have to try to fend off with these traps for as long as I possibly can. Neither player really having the most extravagant turn. I mean, Mekk Knight really, you could say, arguably in the better position here, having you know, a pretty standard and common setup with Morningstar Secrets, Indigo, and things like that. Pretty solid. Me, I've just got a 10U monster and some back row. And you know, hindsight, I don't really know if I even should have summoned the Shathana here. But I guess it's there to block some damage if need be, because it does have a pretty decent defense stat. I guess I put it out there on the field early, hoping I would draw into some monsters to be able to add on to the board. You know, a board I was going to be able to make and add on to that, I guess, just for extra link fodder. So standby phase here, checking back row, making sure there's nothing he wants to fire off here. Purple Nightfall does come back. Should come back in defense position, but, you know, doesn't matter here since he could just turn it to attack position at this point. And he's going to go ahead and use World Legacy Succession. Luckily for him, or for me, I guess, that means, you know, he needs a Link monster to be able to summon it to. So Compulse is going to get burned there. That's going to do, you know, a couple things. That's going to make the Succession fizzle, obviously, and lose a ton of advantage on losing a Link 2 like that just out of nowhere. So he's going to go into battle phase. He's going to memory out Blue Sky, and I can only imagine he's doing that to get the card back to his hand in the end phase, so he has it for next turn, and he can keep the board presence of Purple Nightfall on the field instead of having to use its effect and risk it getting ogred or something like that. So pass it back over to me. I pick up Mandarin for a turn, which would have been lovely in the previous turn, and I go for Blue Slug to try to add back the Mandarin. He's got Secret, but I have Called By the Grave, and I'll be able to get that Mandarin back to hand. He's going to use purple. I've got Ghost Ogre for him before he ends his turn. He's going to go ahead and use Upstart there to put me up to 9,000, and that does draw him into, I believe, a Gearsu here, which is huge. This is where I was thinking in my head as I was playing this out. I'm like, maybe I should have saved that Call By for something more impactful. But the reason I wanted to get into Slug, even though I knew it wasn't really going to get me anywhere, was because I wanted to be able to make my wave live at least. So I'm able to wave the Gearsu. I have Blue Tang. He's got the Ash Blossom, which is pretty unfortunate. Gonna go ahead and resolve the Seahorse and the Slug rather, and the Tang. And luckily the Tang comes in major clutch, and able to grab a Seahorse off of that, I believe. So at this point, I've got a lot of advantage here, a lot of pieces ready to be put in play. We're going to go ahead and link into Anemone, and Anemone's going to revive that Seahorse again. We're going to link that into the Sea Angel. I already have the field spell in hand, but I'm doing it just to make Mandarin live. The Mandarin will get banished here momentarily, so don't worry. I'm going to go into that Crystal Heart, making its first appearance this entire match to combo with that Battle Ocean. And going into Great Bubble Reef. Great Bubble Reef is absolutely fantastic. I'm loving the card more and more. Wonder Heart's really not the way to go right here, in my opinion anyways. It is up by 2,000, putting it to 46. So it'll take a good bit of damage over that Gearsu, and I'll pass it back to him. So it's unaffected. I'm able to, during his standby phase, banish a water to draw a card to make, you know, cards like Dynamiscus more live, potentially draw into hand traps, make it gain an additional 600. And luckily for me, he top decks Blue Sky, but I've got a Dynamiscus to banish it before the effect can resolve. So Marincess taking a pretty ugly 2-1 victory. The only reason I say ugly is because of the mistakes that I made, you know, the misplays that happened on both players' behalves. But again, it is a testing match. We are here to learn things, and learn things we certainly did. Of course, by pointing out those mistakes and learning from them so that they do not happen in the future. So either way, I hope you guys were able to enjoy this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Consider hitting the join button, checking out our sponsors down in the links below. You know, don't forget to use that discount code WinterKills10 off at ImperiumDuelist.com if you want to save a little money and get some amazing products in the process. So yeah, that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want to check out the deck profiles for either of these decks, they should be annotated at the end or in a card up in the top right of the video. So thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, WinnerKills signing out. We'll see you guys in the next one. And lastly, of course, a huge shout out goes to my Divine Level channel members here on YouTube, and that is Academic Thick, Travis Harris, and Zors. Thank you guys so much for continuing to support the channel as generously as you have.